our longest trusted English newspaper since 1898. Now available digitally. Computer, order the Manila Times Digital Edition. Subscribed. Get the Manila Times Digital Edition for less than 2 pesos and 50 centavos per day when you sign up for 1 year. The Manila Times, news source of choice, trusted since 1898.
Greetings, thank you for lending an ear to the Voice of the Times for Saturday, April 30, 2022.
For today's editorial, irresponsible and practical policy on gambling. One of the enduring legacies of President Rodrigo Duterte, for better or worse, will be his focus on fighting the scourge of illegal drugs in the Philippines. While the debate over his approach to the problem will likely continue for years, we would suggest there is value in the basic idea of a leader identifying a far-reaching social ill and then developing a policy to try to correct it.
Gambling, we believe, has become that social ill. Recent stories of criminal activity connected to the popular off-site cockfight gambling known as isabong, stories of kidnappings, robberies, and even police officers falling into criminal activity because of it have shocked the public. But this is just the latest in a long history of controversies. Before isabong, there were troubles caused by Chinese-run Philippine offshore gaming operations or POGOs. Before that, there were controversies surrounding the small-town lottery run by the Philippine Charity Sweepstakes Office or PCSO. And before that, there was outrage over the illegal numbers game wedding.
Unlike illegal drugs, however, gambling is not completely bereft of benefits for the country. It is a considerable source of revenue for the government through taxes and provides employment for thousands of Filipinos. Thus, while a moral argument can certainly be made for the prohibition of gambling, banning it outright is not practical and very likely could have unintended negative consequences. We believe there is an alternative. Rather than outlawing forms of gambling permanently, the incoming administration should pursue a policy aimed at reducing the risks of gambling addiction and criminal activity and promotes responsible enjoyment of gambling as a leisure activity. At the same time, the government should use its share of gambling revenues to fund productive efforts against drugs, crime, and the poverty that contributes to those problems.
Some policy recommendations. In a previous editorial, we called for the prohibition, even if only temporarily, of isabong due to the seeming epidemic of criminality it is causing. However, upon further reflection, focusing only on that form of gambling will only address part of the problem. The end goal must be a culture change in which gambling is no longer regarded as a way of life for some people, but a leisure activity that should only be enjoyed responsibly and in moderation. To that end, we would make the following suggestions. Prohibit broadcast of gambling games and other forms of off-site gambling. Those that are currently available include cockfighting, the so-called isabong, horse racing and jai alay broadcasts via cable TV channels, and online games, primarily casino games. As noted, isabong in particular has led to a virtual epidemic of related crime, with reported kidnappings, robberies, and worse, with some critical activity even being carried out by police personnel who have become addicted to gambling. There is a demonstrable correlation between increased accessibility to various forms of gambling and criminal behavior. Therefore, restricting accessibility of gambling activities and eliminating third-party handlers of gambling bets and winnings will immediately reduce these problems, strengthen and extend the ban on gambling for government officials, employees, law enforcement, and military personnel. There are some regulations in place, but the involvement of police officers in recent gambling-related crimes strongly suggests these are not nearly as robust or as diligently enforced as they ought to be. Rules and their enforcement must be based on the principle that service to the country in any capacity is a public trust, which must not be compromised by activities that present a corruption risk. Use the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporations or PAGCOR revenues to help fight illegal drugs and poverty. Currently, the revenue remittances to the government from PAGCOR are distributed among many government departments and programs, where their impact, while positive, is minimal. PAGCOR's revenues should instead be dedicated to the war on drugs, particularly for drug rehabilitation, according to the principle that the best way to combat the drug menace is to remove demand for illegal drugs. In addition, some of PAGCOR's revenues should also be used for housing and other support such as healthcare, training, and job programs in communities where the drug problem is most serious, primarily in former settlers and other low-income communities. And that's the editorial for Saturday, April 30, 2022.
For more news and information, get a copy of the Manila Times on print, subscribe to its digital edition, or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, and listen to the voice of the Times.